I'll come back. 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 I'll come back.
When you make money.
Yeah. But then it's gonna be. Oh, we are okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he sold the Doge. Pump it.
All right. Here's a little cut. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello and welcome to the Barcast, where the bar gets lower every single week. Your bartenders for this evening are Enigmatic Otaku.
It's been 1 week.
No,
Slam
never.
and Werfer.
The Doge is here. Dump it.
Milk.
Apparently, it's been a week for Enigma.
Rav.
It's been a couple of weeks for me.
And I've got Diamond Hands. This week, we have a very special guest. Maybe not the high follower people or Twitter celebrities that you're used to, but we have a really cool up-and-comer writer with a great story. You know the story as Rekindled Embers. We know the author as Applezombi. Apple, thank you for taking time to join us today.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited, and it's quite the honor. Thank you.
You're the honorable writer. There, got him.
You couldn't see it. You couldn't see it, but I was dabbing.
For those who are tuning in for the very first time ever, hello and welcome. We are the Barcast, the best money-losing scheme on the internet. You politely ask for guests to come on. We politely ask them on. You ask the questions. We make them miserable for 2 hours. You can check out previous episodes, such as covering people like John Delancey, Andrea Libman, and
just hook it up.
We hear you.
I sleep in a race car bed with my wife.
Okay, well then I guess we're back in action. I guess with that further ado, I'll try to put some cutting in post here so that way it seems like this was professional. No, you're fine. 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're back. Hi everyone. We're back. Nothing went wrong, and you have no proof that something went wrong. But without further ado, we've wasted enough time on talking about ourselves. Let's get talking about Apple a little bit. For those who may not know you, Apple, let's do the very quick introduction. Who are you, and what do you do in the fandom?
Who am I? I'm just a guy that likes to write stories, and I've been watching My Little Pony since season 2, and only very, very recently decided to basically contribute to the fandom. And so probably last year, I think, sometime middle of last year, I started writing and posting stories on FIM Fiction. And I don't know, what else do you want to know?
You're the first person to call it FIM Fiction. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're used to people saying film fiction, but hey, that's fine. It's really interesting that you only started in the last year. What made it suddenly this is the thing that I want to do? What was the cutover for you?
So, I've been writing stories off and on since I was in the 2nd grade, and part of my brain always wanted to write and even to make a career out of it, and it was always kind of this thing in the back of my head, that I wanted to do this as a job, and as you grow older, as reality sets in, and you realize that people don't make money from writing unless your name happens to be Stephen King, and frankly, everything I write was utter shit. And not only that, but I couldn't do any editing on anything I'd ever written. I couldn't finish projects because I'd get halfway through, I'd get a third of the way through, I'd go back and I'd look at everything I'd write, and I would be like, wow, this is just hot garbage. Like, this is just utter filth, and I hated everything I ever wrote. So, and then on top of that, I kind of had this kind of misconception about fan fiction in general. I'd never read any fan fiction, and I had this idea in my head that, well, if you were really a good writer, maybe you'd be published and you'd be doing your own original stuff. And when I finally first logged into fan fiction for the first time and actually started reading stuff, and I'm like, wow, well, I was an arrogant asshole. Like, there's some amazing stuff on here, and even the stuff that, you know, maybe isn't as amazing is still like really good. Like, there's some incredible stuff in here, and I just got sucked in, and so it was a combination of kind of this life realization that I'm never going to be able to make a career out of this. I'm always going to hate everything I write, and, you know, maybe fan fiction is a way for me to write and enjoy that hobby without this expectation of needing to be published, needing to be perfect so I can make a career out of this. And so when I let that go, I discovered I could enjoy my own writing. I could actually like my stories. And so I let that go, and my apologies to every single fan fiction writer in the history of ever for ever even thinking that this was somehow, you know, not an okay way to write, if that makes sense.
Right.
So yeah, and that epiphany happened. It was probably about almost 2 years ago now, and I started writing with the intent to publish on film fiction, but I wrote quite a bit before I ever even posted anything. I wanted to have a huge amount of content basically ready to go before I even started. So I started posting, I want to say April or May of last year is when I first started putting stuff up.
Wow. Still, that's really cool that you kind of had this cathartic journey in order to reach this point, to be able to reach, you know, the confidence and willpower to post on FimFic. And that said, you definitely like kind of chose the right pool to jump in my opinion, because FimFiction has this kind of unreal way of like having higher standards than other fan fictions. Like, I don't know if you've read Sonic fan fiction before, but
oh my.
Anyway. Well then, let's move to the kind of next question. How did you get into MLP?
So, like I said, it was back during season 2, and long before I even gave the show a chance, I had a friend of mine who was in my Dungeons and Dragons group, and he kind of told me about it, and he's like, "Hey, you should be watching My Little Pony," and I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
What the fuck is wrong with you before I roll my D10?
And he's like, no, really, it's amazing. It has amazing writing. And I'm like, dude, it's a little girl show. It's seriously like what is wrong with you? And he's like, no, like there's this really endearing animation style. The characters are deep. They're flawed. They're interesting. They're well written. And I was like, okay, I can respect that, but it's fucking My Little Pony. Like,
yeah.
like you do you. Okay, I'm not going to think you're a creep with that sort of explanation. Like, that's cool. But I'm not going to touch it. And so that was back, I want to say, either in the middle of or towards the end of season 1. So season 2 starts airing, and I'm still not watching it. And my parents come over for a visit. They come over to hang out with me and my family for a bit. And my daughter at the time was very young, and something was making her upset. I can't even remember what, but she was inconsolable. She was throwing this huge fit. So she was a little baby, and my dad, in an effort to try and calm her down, pulls up an episode of Ponies on his tablet, just off of YouTube or off of Netflix or whatever. And so I'm sitting there next to my dad, next to my daughter, who's this like screaming baby, and then I'm sitting there, and we sit together and we watch like 5 minutes of, I can't even remember which episode. I want to say it was probably the one with Fluttershy and the Dragon.
Oh, Dragon.
And we get to the end, and I'm like, holy shit! And we binged the rest of season 1 that day. Like me, my wife, and my daughter at the time just binged the rest of season 1 that day, and I was done. Like it was all over. So,
wow. So you that's around season 2, right?
Yeah. So that was right in the middle of when season 2 was airing.
Huh.
I'm trying to sit here and do math in my head. Does that make, like, I'm trying to add things up in my head. I'm not trying to, like, explicitly say anything here. But let me ask you this. Has your investment with the show and where you're at right now helped develop a closer relationship with your child?
Yeah. I mean, she's not really into it anymore. She's kind of moved past it. But yeah, I mean, it's something we could bond over. It's certainly something that we could enjoy as a family, and
Right.
and we all do to different degrees. My wife, me, and my children. So
Awesome. All right. It's really unique to have someone who's a father on the cast and like to able to share that with their child. So it's a really interesting dynamic. Thank you for answering that question.
yeah.
The next question is, what do you consider to be your favorite part of the fandom? There's a lot of things in the fandom that are worth loving in their own way. There's the online community, fanfics, conventions, music, art. What keeps you here, especially since it sounds like your daughter has moved past it?
So for me, it's definitely the fan fiction, because I did watch the show, but I didn't involve myself in the community in any way until very recently. So I kind of missed the whole convention aspect of it, and that's kind of a regret of mine. I wish I'd taken the time to go to one of the cons, but I never did. So for me, it is the fan fiction. I am endlessly amazed, not just at the incredible creativity that I've encountered among the writers, and the readers, but also the level of support, the level of friendship. I mean, it's certainly been worth it. Every ounce that I've invested into writing stories, into reading stories, has paid off in spades.
Awesome. Speaking of support, if there's one thing that you could say to your followers or your fans, what would it be?
Wow. Just one thing.
If you could distill it down to one thing, it's impossible to even think about that. But
thank you so much. I mean, I've been blown away by the kindness that I have been shown, the willingness of people to read the stuff that I've written, the willingness of people to comment, to criticize, people's willingness to engage has just been absolutely incredible. I'm blown away sometimes, and it's really quite amazing.
well said. Now, this might be a weighty question for someone who just started writing fanfics a year ago, but in general, our introduction questions before we throw you to the wolves. It usually escalate in difficulty. And I swear this is the second to last one. We're in a spot right now where the show is over. This kind of lightning in a bottle, internet phenomena of a show and community is kind of in its final stages. What do we need to do as a community to make sure that we still remain relevant together and strong as, new seasons come out or as the franchise changes, and to keep ourselves together in our own little community?
I would say inclusiveness is important. I've seen things that kind of bother me sometimes. I had I've seen people do like instant downvote sort of things where they see that a story has certain content and they instantly downvote it. And yeah, sure, maybe like some stuff may deserve that, but I think people, if this community is going to survive, I think people need to be more inclusive and to recognize that we all experience the fandom in different ways. So maybe just because you don't like Fluttercord shipping, maybe you don't go instantly downvote that Fluttercord story or whatever, because somebody else does, and we're all a part of the same fandom, and the larger we are, the stronger we are. And we need to make sure that we're not driving people out just because they experience the fandom in slightly different ways than we do.
Yeah, but what if I like Luna and they like Cadence, and am I not entitled to strangle them?
No,
you're not. The fandom
you're not allowed to strangle me, Enigma. What the hell? Sorry, Apple, I cut you off. Go on.
The fandom is big enough for all of us, I think.
Oh, screaming cowboy in the distance. Now, last but not least, the hardest question that we got before we start going to user-submitted questions. And just a reminder for everyone listening, if you have questions that you want to ask, go ahead and throw them into the thread on FimFiction right now. The last question that we got for you, my fan, is, who is best pony?
It changes based on who I am writing. So, it honestly depends on whose brain I'm trying to dig into at any given point in time. Because I've been writing Rarity quite a bit recently, that kind of is Rarity right now. But I think every pony has an equal share on that stage in my head, as long as that's who I'm writing at any given point in time. Sorry, that's not a very exciting answer. Maybe I should have just said, I don't know, derpy or something, so that I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're not.
You said a bunch of words, and now you said derpy, and it's like, okay, acceptable. This is fine.
Well,
no, somewhere in there I heard derpy, so I'm good.
I mean, some of us have ADHD and can't stick with a character for too terribly long.
Yeah, and I like characters that have flaws, and I was recently thinking about this, and I think that in the show, sometimes the characters' flaws are portrayed in a realistic way, and sometimes it's for like comic relief, right? And I prefer to see the characters when their flaws are portrayed in a realistic way, like so like take Pinkie Pie for example. I love the episode where she, Maud, and Rarity go to Manhattan, because it's like a realistic portrayal of her obsessiveness, her need to give to other people at the expense of her own health and sanity and safety at times. But it's not over the top. It's not really played up for just as a joke. So and so that's what becomes best pony for me, is whichever pony I am able to portray with realistic flaws and motivations at any given point in time.
Well, what if there's a character who's all flaws, like Applejack?
That's not true. She's honest most of the time.
So
remember, she doesn't learn anything.
I actually like writing Applejack. I just posted a very short chapter of my big story today, actually, this morning, in which I got to write about Applejack. Minor spoilers, sorry. It wasn't very long, but I got to kind of write from Applejack's perspective, and I quite liked that. Like, it was kind of an interesting change because I don't do that very often.
That reminds me, I need to finally pick up writing the story about Applejack getting her mane pulled and getting her cheeks clapped. So, you know what?
Speaking of picking things, we have our first question from the chat. It's that question. You guys love it. Would your dick be the biggest thing in the pickle jar if it was chopped off and put in a pickle jar with Pickle Rick? Would it be the pickle dick or the pickle Rick?
I'm going to embrace modesty here and say it would probably be the Pickle Rick, actually.
Funniest shit I've ever seen. Perfect. All right, let's head out to the thread now. Glimmaster is up first. Number 1, do you think it would be a good idea to eat the Applezombies to defeat their invasion?
That depends on how you would define an apple zombie.
Is it a zombie fruit, or is it a zombie member of the apple family?
So if you must know, the username came long before My Little Pony.
Okay.
So back when I was a wee zombie, I had no idea what this thing called anime was. But I had a friend who was very involved, and he invited me to his house one day to show me an anime, I want to say from the late 80s, called Macross Plus, which is part of the Robotech Macross series. So it's a giant robot anime.
Right.
And this movie, Macross Plus, the villain is an AI singer, performer, whose evil plan is to take over the world by taking over all of the giant robots and also mind controlling everybody with her hypnotic music, turning them into her zombies. And her name in the English dub, at least, was Sharon Apple. And so that's where that username came from, and it's something that I've just kept since I was a teenager. So it's a reference to the first anime I ever saw, which is Macross Plus, and the villain, who I thought was a really cool villain at the time, and her evil plan to hypnotize the world with sexy music. So
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only Macross fan in here.
It's honestly the only Macross I've ever seen.
I highly recommend Frontier.
Oh yeah,
if you can stand it, the original Robotech. It's like 52 episodes long, so it kind of drags. But I highly recommend Frontier.
I watched one episode and I was like, yeah, not for me.
Speaking of not for me, number 2, how do you make the worst pony become the best pony?
Do you want a serious answer?
I mean, this is your time, so people are going to judge you for years to come based on your answer. It is high stakes stuff here. You know, you're only going on iTunes. It's fine.
So I mean, worst ponies, like, you give a character flaws, you give them realistic motivations, and they become interesting. That's the only answer I have. Like, I don't know. I guess who is worst pony, and then we can go from there.
So I was gonna say Spoiled Rich, and her goal is to be the biggest bitch out there. How would you make her the best?
How would you make Spoiled Rich best pony? I would, if it were me, and I was going to tell a story from Spoiled Rich's perspective. I would delve into her backstory first. I figure out where she came from. I would have her be the product of horrific abuse, essentially like insane level tiger mom parents that are just driving her to marry above herself, if that makes sense, so that she can bring the rest of her family. So I'd have her basically not have a childhood at all and have her entire life revolve around the need for social advancement, and just have her not have any concept of life outside of that framework. And so I'd establish that, and then I would show the aftermath of her behavior in the episode where the CMCs get their cutie marks. I would show the aftermath of that, where she kind of declines in her daughter's estimation. So have, Diamond Tiara basically start to realize that her mom is a steaming pile of awfulness, and have Spoiled Rich kind of have this self-reflection of this moment of discovery where she has to redefine herself in ways that she never has before. So that's how I'd make Worst Pony, Best Pony.
This is a great story. When are you going to start writing it?
Oh, dude, my unwritten idea pile is so stacked right now.
God, yes.
I'm already in the process of outlining my next big project after I eventually finish the rough draft of Rekindled Embers, which my goal is to finish the rough draft probably in June sometime.
You gave me an idea for a story. I'm thinking of calling the Unwritten Verse, where it's like a multiverse thing of all the unwritten ideas anyone has ever had.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
you want to open that Pandora's box, man?
Yeah, pure potential. Potential in the absence of form.
Isn't that kind of like the Never-Ending Story? Like the whole idea of Imagination Land?
And then the boy took a huge dump. Wait, I'm taking a huge dump.
You get to watch a horse drown?
That's literally the greatest entire scene in Robot Chicken ever. So I am not taking suggestions. That was it.
We're gonna move right along because we're on a deep tangent right now. Number 3. If you are Applezombi, where is Paralive?
Gosh. I mean, again, given the context of where the name comes from, I don't know.
Buried out back, probably.
Buried out back. That implies slightly less than alive, though, doesn't it?
Oh.
Ooh.
Well, I didn't say they had to
this
still
sounds
be
like
alive.
Schrodinger's pear.
Yeah, I have no good answer for that.
No, that's fine. Numero 4, then. What superpower would you like to have?
This is one I've thought about. I am really obsessed with foxes. All sorts of foxes. So if I had a superpower, I would want to be able to change into a fox and to experience life as a fox.
You're talking about Animorphs.
See, I was so sure he was going to say Summon Renamon.
Yeah.
Get her! Do that!
Renamon, not really my thing, but hey, I don't kink shame.
It's
There's
other
some
people's
pen.
thing. You can pimp her out. You can make millions.
Why would you pimp out Renamon? Just save her for yourself. Like, holy shit. Are you retarded?
Whoa. Let's not use that word, but...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, so on a slightly related note, I'm in the process of designing my first tattoo.
Ooh.
And
I thought you were going to say, I'm in the process of becoming a fox.
No. I mean, oh god, I wish. That would be so much fun. But no, And it's going to be Fox themed. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but if I ever do actually go through with it, it will be Fox themed. So
Sweet.
So yeah, that's my superpower. I want to turn into a fox. That would be awesome.
That let you do that, Star Fox.
We'll just send you the box set of Spice and Wolf and move on to the next question.
God let you brew that, Starbucks.
Have you, during your life, just like sat down and just said to yourself, why do I like this show? Why do I like these colorful horses?
Yes. I mean, I have tried to ask myself that question, but I don't know. Like, to me, it is just kind of a lightning in the bottle moment. Like, it's the writing. It's these fascinating and endearing and engaging characters. Like, I don't know how else to answer that. I can't. I don't have a good answer. I don't know exactly what it was that endeared me, but there it is.
MLP is like a literature version of Mario Maker, as in everything you need is right there for you to form into your own cohesive stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, I think the world is both simple enough and vast enough that you can kind of find your own niche in it, if that makes sense.
It's simple and clean, you could say.
Wow.
Oh, God.
We're going to move right
Ancient
along past
callback
that.
there.
Yikes.
Next question. A very concerned man enters a hospital. He goes to the employee requesting to see a doctor. The employee points to the left. Fortunately, the concerned person finds the doctor and immediately requests an information from him. The doctor tells the man about the information. He gasps in shock upon hearing this, and the man goes to the room in the hospital looking for someone. He enters a room with a woman laying in bed, crying and holding her left hand on her stomach. The man looks sad and decides to hug the woman. It's his wife. Oh no, the doctor's information was not great. What do you call this?
Yeah, I read this one in the chat or in the forum post, and I sense that there's like an inside joke going on, so I have no idea. I'm outside of whatever this reference is. I don't understand what's happening.
No, that's fair. He's referencing Lost, and I'm mad at Glenn. Like, God damn it, Glenn. Why would you do this? Anyway, moving on to Arcade Striker JK5. Number 1, what's your favorite non-MLP franchise?
I would have to say probably the Final Fantasy games.
Ooh, any particular one?
Right now, Final Fantasy 14. I do play Final Fantasy 14 on occasion. I really enjoy the story, the complexity of the story, and I enjoy playing dress up with my cat girl. So,
yay! Cat girls are life. Number 2.
So wait, hang on.
No, go for it.
Funny tangent here, because of course I play a cat girl. My wife and I play together. She plays a lot more than I do. She plays an incredibly tall lizard boy, and I play the shortest possible cat girl. And in real life, the ratios are reversed. I am very tall, and she is very short. And so that's just a funny, cute thing about me and my wife, that our Final Fantasy XIV characters are gender reversed and height reversed of our real life. So
it's so cute.
Sorry,
no, it's all good.
As a single man, your public shows of affection sicken me.
Have you done any fan content for non-MLP franchises?
I never have. No. As I talked about earlier, I had a negative opinion of fan fiction in general, and that stopped me from having any sort of desire. Now, I've been writing since I was basically a child, so I constantly have ideas. So yeah, I had ideas for fan fictions from other franchises, but I never committed any part of it to words at all. Now that being said, I have been DMing Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games for many years, and I have created my own homebrewed content, homebrewed worlds, that sort of thing for these games. And so I guess that would be the closest you could say to fan content that I created outside of MLP.
Well said. Yeah, no, I would definitely count like the custom-made Dungeons and Dragons world as like a sort of fan content. Like you created your own realm for use of the game. It's like, I don't know if you would like go as far as to write it all down so that someone else could use it, but it's kind of like making your own mod for Dungeons and Dragons.
I actually started to write it all down, but I ran into the same problem again that I mentioned earlier, that before writing MLP stuff, everything I ever wrote, I hated immediately after writing it. So I start writing this down, and then the second I go back and reread anything I've written, I'm just like, I'm filled with just utter disgust and horror. Just like, holy shit, I wrote this? Oh fuck, that's terrible. Oh my god, what was I thinking? And of course that becomes kind of this motivation killer. Like, oh, why should I even bother continuing this project, because it's terrible.
Well, here's the thing that, so you mentioned this a few times, and I'm going to pick your brain for a hot second, because this is something that I struggled with a lot too, and I still kind of struggle with. Why wouldn't you rather take that kind of concern and being able to see the mistakes of the past and use it to build like confidence that you will do better in the future? Because you've grown as a writer, and you've developed your skills, you've learned from what's been done wrong, and you won't make those same mistakes in the future. Like, is it fair to say that you've grown as a writer in the last year?
Oh yeah, oh for sure.
Then why be so hard on yourself?
Well, I mean, do you want the high self-esteem answer or the low self-esteem answer?
This is your time, my man. What are you comfortable with the internet hearing?
So the high self-esteem answer is that I do recognize that. I do recognize that I have changed, that I have improved. And reading the things I'm writing now certainly fills me with pride and with satisfaction. And being a part of this fan community, I'm able to read other things that inspire me, that give me ideas, that sort of thing. The low self-esteem answer, and again, it kind of depends on where my brain is at any given month. But the low self-esteem answer is that me being able to recognize the weaknesses and flaws in my own writing does not translate to me knowing how to fix them. And I get into these weird, dark spirals in my head where I'm going around in circles in my own thoughts, and I'm like, well, everything you write is crap. Okay, well then fix it. Well, I don't know how to fix it, and I just go in circles, and I lose all my motivation, and it's kind of shitty, and I hate it. But generally am able to force myself to write, and there's times when I'm working on a chapter and I don't like how it's going, and I feel one of these kind of spirals starting, and I just kind of kind of say to myself, fuck it, I'm going to push through. I'm going to write this shitty chapter. I'm going to get done with it, and I'm going to give the GDocs link to my editor, and he can tell me how to fix it, and I'm going to move on to a different chapter and feel better about myself, and that's just what I have to do sometimes, and that's okay.
It is okay, and I want to, first of all, your feelings are entirely valid, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that really relate to what you're saying and really understand, like, kind of where you're coming from. Like, that, a lot of people, when they have stories that they haven't completed for years upon years, it's not because they don't want to. It's the idea of jumping back into that beast where you already acknowledge that you've made a lot of mistakes and you got to finish it, or you want to finish it, but at the same time, are you polishing a turd sort of thing. But just have faith that, your ideas are good. And, I mean, you wouldn't be here today if you weren't a talented author. So let that be a nice feather in your cap, and trust in yourself a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. And can I take a second to shout out to my editor? Like, yes,
go ahead.
I got amazingly lucky that somehow Psionics found my post on looking for editors, or whichever forum that was, read through all 24 chapters, all 240,000 words of Rekindled Embers at the time, and enjoyed it enough to agree to edit for me. It's a monumental task, and I recognize that, and it's only getting bigger and bigger as I add more chapters, and he has been endlessly patient and brilliant and profoundly creative. He has an incredible gift of figuring out exactly what I need to do to fix stuff. He's very specific. He's incredibly kind. And Rekindled Embers would not be what it is without Psionics. He is just so amazing. And also, for those of you who follow the story, he did the artwork that happens in the middle of chapter 30, and I'm super freaking happy with it. So, yeah, there's that. Thank you so much.
Everyone give Psionics some hugs. So, let's get on to some fun questions. The next one, oh my gosh, this is way too cold for my mouth. Have you ever done the Thriller dance?
Me dancing. Ooh. I have not done the Thriller dance. No, dancing is not my thing. I am not a coordinated individual. It does not end well.
All right. Next question is from Benantes out in the chat. Is it fair to say that you and your wife both reflect each other in your FF characters, because it's really sweet?
Both reflect each other? Yeah. I mean, kind of. We don't really role play necessarily as our Final Fantasy characters, but she plays a lot more than I do, and one of the things that she enjoys the most about playing Final Fantasy is she enjoys being a new player's best experience when they come onto the game. Now, for those of you who don't know, Final Fantasy XIV is an MMO, and MMOs have pretty traditionally toxic communities. And Final Fantasy XIV tends to be better than some, but she goes out of her way to be helpful to new players, and that's something that she gains a lot of enjoyment out of, and it's something I deeply admire. So I think that more reflects her and who she is than who I am. Meanwhile, what I do most of the time when I play Final Fantasy is play dress up, literally, for me or for my house. So I guess it reflects us in the sense that I enjoy being frivolous and silly and ridiculous, and she enjoys being helpful and kind, and and I admire that quite a bit.
That's so cool. All right. We're going to nobody special out in the thread now. Number 1 is, how do you do, fellow kid?
I am doing great. I'm sitting here having fun talking on a podcast and drinking a delicious beer.
Yes, what kind of beer? Judge.
It's Hefeweizen. Blood Orange is the name of the beer, and it's from White Dog Brewing. And so
really good.
It's a Hefeweizen, and I've been experimenting a lot with different like craft breweries, different unique beers, and I saw this one, and it's called Blood Orange, and so I assumed that it might taste like blood oranges. It, in fact, does not, because it's a Hefeweizen, and this is the first Hefeweizen I've ever had before, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. But it tastes like bananas, because apparently that's what Hefeweizens taste like, is like bananas or bubblegum. Either way, it's delightful, and I'm quite enjoying it.
Yay. Number 2, what's an MLP crossover that you would like to see done well?
I am generally not a huge fan of crossovers. I don't. Most of the crossovers seem to be like anime crossovers, and I don't watch enough anime to understand them. And then I see some of like the bizarre, like I see like Five Nights at Freddy's crossovers, and I'm just like, no, I don't see any need to engage with that. Like, and you know what? Like I said before, like we need this fandom to be as large as possible. So if you're writing Five Nights at Freddy's crossovers, like 100% do it. And I support you, and I probably won't read your story, and I'm sorry. But
as someone with one of the most read Five Nights at Freddy's fan fiction crossovers, yes, please go write more of it. I don't want to write it anymore.
Yeah, so crossovers I would like to see, I can't think of any. Does that mean I haven't had ideas for crossovers? Oh yeah, I've had ideas for crossovers because I'm constantly generating ideas. I someday may write a crossover, and if I do write a crossover, I can tell you that it would probably be Star Trek The Next Generation. And it would be short. It would be very, very short, 1 or 2 chapters at the most.
I take it that your favorite Star Trek captain is Picard, then.
Janeway, actually.
This is acceptable.
Yeah, so here's another fun fact. The original idea for Rekindled Embers is loosely inspired by an episode of Voyager. The episode of Voyager called Living Witness, where the Doctor is woken up hundreds of years after a series of events and has to correct the historical record when he discovers that people with agendas have changed the historical record in order to fit their particular agendas. And so for those of you who are familiar with the story will understand how that inspiration fits into that story. So,
all right. Next question is, what is the dietary needs for an Applezombi?
Lots of cheese, apparently. Coffee, endless cups of coffee, and ever so occasionally other things, but mostly just lots and lots of coffee. I don't know. Coffee fuels my creativity. And I'm a huge fan of black coffee. Just like absolutely nothing in it. Just give me the sexy magical black bean juice.
I highly relate to you. This is beginning to become a little uncomfortable. All right. Nyla is up next. Number 1, what inspired you to become a reviewer?
So Nyla is referring to my participation first in the group called My Little Reviews and Feedback, and currently in Nyla's Reviewers Mansion. Nyla is a friend. Hi, Nyla. One of the first friends I made when I started writing. I saw somebody advertising for people to review stories, and I recognize that feedback is kind of essential to writers, and at the time, the comments I was getting were almost exclusively positive, and I'm terrified of negative feedback, but I have a lot of admiration because I think it takes a certain amount of courage, and also at the time I was feeling incredibly grateful to the community as a whole, and so when the gentleman who ran the old group, the My Little Reviews and Feedback, posted something on the Self-Promotion Bureau about how he was looking for reviewers, I thought myself inadequate, but he talked about the process of basically doing a tryout review, and I was like, I don't think that I have the background or the education or the intellect, frankly, in order to articulate a good review. But the worst I can do is try this tryout review and fail. And I did the tryout review, and he said it's okay with a few modifications, and I posted it, and I started writing reviews, and I enjoy doing it. I feel like it's a way to give back to the fan community, just like writing. I've gotten so much from the community in terms of hours and hours and hours of free entertainment that I would feel remiss if I did not find a way to give back. And so I write, but also I try to write reviews. The fandom only gets stronger the better we are, and hopefully for those who have been the recipients of a perhaps less than positive review, hopefully it was done in a professional way from me, and hopefully you were able to find something useful in what I wrote. And for those of you who feel like I might have been unfair or overly critical, all I can say is I'm sorry, and I'm doing my best. And like I said, I just hope that you got something useful out of the process.
Well, I would interject and say that reviewing anything is a bit like, you don't have to be a chef to tell somebody whether or not a cake is good. Mm-hmm. Any feedback can be, even disgustingly negative feedback. You can dig through it and find what exactly it is that they're so mad about. If you can't, then they're just being a troll.
I think that's probably true to an extent. I think negative feedback, when you're giving negative feedback, you have to be incredibly careful. Just because, and this is something I know from personal experience, like getting negative feedback hurts. And a writer's morale is so important. If I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like writing, then I'm not going to write. And that's, I think for me, not writing is worse than shitty writing. And so my hope is that if I give a negative review, that I'm not damaging somebody's morale so much that they go from writing to not writing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think it's totally fair. And it's really hard to say, because reviewing is kind of in its own way on film fiction. Like, I've wanted to write an entire massive blog post for this, so I'll keep it very short. I think it's an unappreciated thing on film fiction, as long as you don't get into the mindset that your opinion is the only opinion. And I think there's a lot of people in this fandom that they're just looking for some sort of feedback on the things that they make. And sometimes they get people in their comment sections that are just nice. And they're just give me more! I want more! Tell tell me what you want. And
that is such a mood.
But
let me in.
But at the same time, it's really easy to get hung up on a single person's opinion from both a creator standpoint and your own standpoint. But getting to a point that you believe that like this particular reviewer's opinion is the one that matters or something like that. And that is not the case. The person whose opinion matters the most at the end of the day is your own. Or if you're writing for a very specific audience, that audience's opinion. And I know I've personally just kind of got like I've gotten really hung up on those sort of things before, and I don't. If I can, I want to stand up on a pedestal loud enough so people don't fall into the same mistakes that I made. But I hope it's I hope. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. This was a terrible grandstand. I'm just gonna step down now and move on to the next question.
So, but before you do you mind if I do another shout out?
No, please go for it.
So, hey, writers out there, if you are anybody who writes stories and is listening to me, there's different review groups on FinFiction. I know at least 3 that are active. And full disclosure, I'm a part of Nyla's Reviewer Mansion. That's the group that I'm a part of. So yeah, maybe there's a conflict of interest of me saying, hey, go get a review because I'm a part of one of the groups. But hey, go get a review. I know Nyla's Reviewers Mansion. I know there's My Little Reviews and Feedback. And they're a little bit slower to put out reviews, but Pens and Couches review group as well does occasionally put out reviews. Getting feedback on your work is incredibly helpful, and so please go to one of these groups and submit your stories, and we'll review your stories. And hey, feel free to check out Nyla's Reviewers Mansion. Plug. Because we're a friendly lot, and we like to write reviews for stories.
What he means is, writers, raise your fingies. Give them your energy.
It's true. And don't think that it isn't open for anyone, because it was they were silly enough to allow me to add a story, and now I've got one in there. So it's open to everybody.
Yep, there's no
four people.
There's no tryout, there's no bar for entry. A lot of different reviewers have different guidelines, different stories that they like. I prefer not to review incomplete stories, and I tend to prefer romance stories is what I like. So, but the different groups will have different criteria. Different reviewers like different things. So,
All right. Up next, we've got number 2. Do you like pineapples?
On occasion. So I realize this might lose me a large number of followers, but yes, on pizza.
Whoa.
Hey, my man.
Yeah, and in drinks. So, but yes, I do like pineapples.
Pineapple drinks are how we say the shit. So yes.
All of you excommunicated. Dungeon, 100 years. No trial.
No, I'm pretty sure
you're not the one that owns the Dungeon Enigma.
You're already in the Dungeon Enigma. Go home. Number 3.
Oh, so wait! I have to tell you this. So let me tell you this. One of my friends in the Reviewer Mansion gave me an image that's basically a bunch of alcohol recipes, cocktail recipes, loosely inspired by My Little Pony characters. And so from that, I kind of invented a cocktail I really like that's loosely based off of Princess Celestia, and it uses pineapple vodka as its base. So yes, very delicious pineapple vodka. Sorry, continue.
No, that's totally fine. Anytime.
How much Sunny D?
No Sunny D, actually. So I'm trying to remember because the recipe is also kind of in my head. But it was pineapple vodka, almond milk. I want to say pineapple juice as well. and I think triple sec, and then we shook it in a shaker with ice, poured it into a glass, and then suspended coconut ice cream in it. Oh, there was Sprite too, so that it was
Sounds
fizzy.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was. It's like, I mean, it's like being punched in the face with sugar, but it was absolutely delicious, and we've made it a few times, my wife and I.
I do have to admit, whenever we talk about like MLP themed drinks, I can't help but think back to the ones that were shared in our Discord server a while back that used tuna fish juice. And
those were not drinks. Those were Mare essence. Mare essence.
It's just ugh.
That sounds revolting.
It honestly really was. But we're about halfway through the cast now, just before we go to our Comics' questions, so it's time for us to roll a quick mid-break ad. Hey, Milk.
Hey, what?
Fuck off.
Fuck
hey,
you.
Clam.
Yes.
Did you know that 100% of our profits and proceeds go to a horse rescue charity?
Wait, really? It doesn't go to Dogecoin?
No, it doesn't go to Dogecoin. It doesn't go to GameStop. It doesn't go to our pockets. We take 100% of bits donated on Twitch, money donated to our Patreon, ad revenue from videos, and we donate it to Red Wings Horse Sanctuary out in California. They actually send us like letters, documented letters thanking us for our thing. They know who we are. We might visit them sometime and interview a horse. It might be really weird and really awkward for everyone involved. But because of that, we're able to give our sponsored horse Little Bit a place to sleep, a place to eat. He's got hay. He's able to get dentist visits. He's able to get his hoofers trimmed. It's really, really nice. 2 years ago, we were able to donate over $1,000. Last year, we were able to donate a couple hundred. I know everyone's pockets are a little tight, but if you can contribute a little bit of money, you get sweet Discord perks. If you don't have the ability to donate money, you can still help out. Check out the little diamond in the bottom right when we stream on Twitch. Hit the little Get Bits button. It'll ask you to watch an ad. You take that bits that you get from the ad, send it our way, and we'll read out who has the highest bit donation at the end of every cast. Thank you, everyone, for joining and still supporting us as we've done this for 6 years. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. But we're going to keep going until this horse is fully dead. That I probably shouldn't say that.
Well, we lost Big Mac already, so...
One of our sponsor
Jinxed
horses
it,
is already dead. We don't need a second one.
I keep beating him, but he don't die.
Oh God, that's worse.
You ass. Fucking goddamn it.
Now with the ad over, we're going to move on to our favorite part of the cast, and that's making Enigma suffer because he can't talk good. Enigma, will you read...
speak good.
Will you read Arconix's questions?
Arconix, Braun Patreon supporter. Yesterday. 1. Right parentheses. A lot of your stories either heavily feature or entirely driven by original characters. What makes a good OC?
This is I saw this question yesterday, so I've given this quite a bit of thought. A good OC is what makes a good OC is the same that what makes any character. And any character that has well-defined motivations, that has well-defined flaws, that has goals, that has obstacles to those goals. All of those things for me make a good character. As far as a good OC, I think that gets a little bit more fraught since we're writing in an established world with established canon. And so I think you have to ask yourself when you're writing an OC, how does this character fit into this world? How is there a place for this character in the world? I think people get upset with OCs that kind of take the spotlight from the canon characters, and so that's certainly something that that you need to keep an eye out for in most contexts. But as far as me, a lot of what I've been working on recently has been obviously Rekindled Embers, and I have quite a few side stories that were speed writes that are related to that world, and so they all have they're pretty much almost all original characters, and I think that's the short version. I mean, we can go more in depth, but ultimately the same things that make a good character in general make a good OC.
I too like Renamon. Number 2. Do you have any OCs you regret creating or that were detrimental to the story you were trying to tell?
No. I don't have any OCs I regret creating. I don't. And other people may have different opinions about this. A few months ago, I published a chapter in which I introduced a transgender character, and I got some pushback, and some people felt like I was diversity checklisting is the phrase, and honestly, I think there might be some truth to that. It wasn't my intention, but I might have accidentally been doing that, and I wasn't trying to. But do I regret creating her? Not in the slightest. I love Calibri. I really love who she is and how she turned out, and she's going to be showing up some more. So I'm not done with her. As far as if I have any regrets involving my OCs, it's that I try to create a backstory for each of them so that their motivations make sense to me, but I don't necessarily have the space to tell all of their stories. So I have characters that will show up for only one chapter, and they have their unique backstories and their unique motivations, and I try to figure that out. And sometimes that becomes really fascinating, and I really want to tell that story, and I just don't have the time. I remember back in chapter 10 of Rekindled Embers, I introduced a character named Whispery. She was a Pegasus, and she was pregnant. And in the original outline, she has this entire arc that was supposed to take place within the confines of chapter 10 of her dealing with her pregnancy and all of the complications that come from that, all while being a teacher and a mentor for the main character, but also dealing with kind of these really complex emotions of knowing that she was going to give her full up for adoption the second he or she was born. And then I was going to have that happen and have her kind of emotionally not be prepared for that and kind of break down at the last second and try and take it back. No, I don't want the adoption to happen, but it was already too late. Like, she's already past that point. She can't take that decision back. And I had this whole arc planned out of all of that happening. And of course it all had to be cut because it was just a massive distraction from the story I was trying to tell. It had nothing to do with the main character, and none of it made sense at all. And
actually sounds like a really great concept for like a side story.
Kind of a roundabout way to explain Superman's origins, but okay.
Take a director's cut.
Right, and so and I've done that a few times. I have a few side stories that I've written about side characters that I've published. There's a couple that I haven't published that may someday see the light of day. I don't know. And there's a couple I have planned that also may see the light of day, but I don't know. But yeah, if I have any regrets about OCs, I think Whispery is probably the one I regret the most because she has this amazing side story that I just never got to go into because it was just a massive distraction from the main plot.
I have a couple that have yet to see the light of day. Quote him on that. He's got people in his basement. Wow. Number 3. Can an OC ever truly know peace as long as they are forced to live and die at the author's whim?
Oh God, no! I fucking torture my characters. The emotional power for me of writing comes from pain and suffering, and my stories are primarily driven by emotions such as guilt, shame, regrets. Like almost everything I've ever written revolves around guilt, shame, and regret in some way. And so until I stop writing a character, they do not know peace, and I'm just going to keep torturing them.
I also like to play God. Number 4. Do you expect the Friendship Inquisition?
Nobody expects the Friendship Inquisition.
Number 5, and this is the simplest of all. You may or may not be aware of the sesquipedalism torture of this podcast resident, Iggy Metakosaku, whose attempts to interpret my multisyllabic inflections upon his poor and battered mind often leave him in the throes of maniacal anguish, or at least somewhat inclined to frustration. Do give him a hug. Or, as we in the world of professional linguistic violence might say, do please be sure to advise toward him a warm and indeed personable measure of companionship and care, and do so by engaging physically yet chastely in the manner most appropriately between those who wish to offer a measure of profound and deeply held comfort to those whose present state is indicative of the requirement that such comfort be provided, whilst ensuring, of course, that such boundaries as necessary are respected by all concerned, so that none might feel greater discomfort than previously experienced prior to the engagement towards which you are now hence encouraged.
You did really good on that, Enigma!
Don't praise him too much.
Like, I think you only fucked up 6 words.
I have to say, like, reading the questions on the forum beforehand, once again, I read that one, I was like, wow, this is an inside joke that I am not inside of, and now that I understand a little bit more of the context, I'm rather impressed. And also amused.
It's also inside you.
Welcome to the Barcast.
Unwrapped. Raw. Your ear holes are pregnant.
Raw dog.
Number 6. This space intentionally left. How do you say that last word?
The boss.
How do you say that last word? I don't understand that word.
Blank. That was. I mean, we used to have Carrier on here. That was his big thing. That was his big story name. Right? Am I wrong?
This space is intentionally left heartbreak.
Okay. Go on.
Yes, answer that question. Go on. It's
Right. Sure, why not? That is more of a statement than a question, a statement of fact. So, true. Is it a true-false? True. I'm going to say true.
Survey says, I don't know how to play Wheel of Jeopardy. Number 7. Do you like chips?
I do like chips. I mean, are we talking British chips or American chips?
Yes. Yes.
The answer is yes. I like kettle chips.
Get out.
Any particular flavor? I love kettle chips.
Both of you, get out. There's a door. I hope you know how to use it.
Hey,
You're outnumbered here again.
Ooh, and just to think, all that salt.
Well, let's move right along. We got 45 minutes left and still a handful of posts. Emotion Nexus is up next. All right, let's get down to this. You better not have put down your current writing skills, or so help me. Oh, emotion. What do you know? Number 1, we already covered the where'd your name come from, so we'll skip to number 2. What's your favorite story you've worked on besides Rekindled Embers?
That would be Cat's Eye View, actually. It's a story told entirely from the perspective of a alley cat, or not an alley cat. Well, yeah, kind of a feral cat living in Ponyville, and some of the adventures he encounters during that time period. I'm incredibly proud of it. It was a chance for me to experiment with an unreliable narrator, because I took kind of the perspective of the cat being this kind of arrogant and noble creature, and I kind of filtered everything through how he perceives reality, and I got to play with that in ways that I just had a tremendous amount of fun with. So yeah, that's probably the story I'm absolutely proudest of is Cat's Eye View. So
nice. Number 3. How does an apple become a zombie?
Being hypnotized by sexy music.
I'm in. Speaking of music, how do you listen? Do you listen to music when you write? If so, what kinds?
Yes and no. While I am physically writing, usually I'm not listening to music. Usually I have television on in the background. But music heavily inspires me. I rely on music to set the emotional tone for certain scenes, and certain scenes are inspired by the emotions, maybe not specifically the lyrics, but certainly the emotions of certain songs. But while I'm actually physically writing, I find music to be too distracting. So I generally turn on something on the background that's something I've already seen, so I don't have to pay attention to. But it creates
that too.
it creates noise because I can't write in silence.
I feel that. I feel that.
What I do is I just put on Rainy Mood.
Rainy Moon.
Rainy Mood.
So like rain
that
sounds
works.
and thunderstorms.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
White noise, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Or
mean, like,
ASMR.
I'll have Star Trek on in the background, or I'll have MythBusters on in the background, or Futurama, or Scrubs. I haven't rewatched Scrubs in a while.
Oh, it's so good, except for the last season that didn't happen.
Yeah.
The janitor is my spirit animal.
Yeah.
Oh, so you say you listen to music and whatnot while you write or while you're looking for inspiration. Do you ever find yourself even just like listening to it in your car? You don't listen to the lyrics. You just listen to like the feeling of the songs.
Oh yeah, definitely. There are scenes that are inspired by specific songs. There are characters that are inspired by specific songs. And my tastes are pretty eclectic. I'm kind of all over the place. I have characters inspired by Broadway show tunes. I have characters inspired by rap music. I have characters inspired by movie soundtracks. And not all of my characters are inspired by songs, but a lot of them are. Someday I'll go on and create a Rekindled Embers Spotify playlist of all of the songs that inspired me.
Oh, look, it's my favorite horse friend, Toto.
Oh,
Oh man.
we're just gonna move right along on here. Number 5, head pats.
Virtual head pats, yes. In real life, I am a very tall person, and so it's very awkward.
That doesn't mean that you don't like it. Here, go down like 3 steps down this stairway, and then we'll give you head pats.
It just means to you, everywhere you go in a crowd is a petting zoo.
But yes, virtual head pats are fantastic.
Number 6, tell us a Jad joke. This isn't a question, but you'll do it anyway, I'm sure.
Oh dear, I will. Okay, there are several hundred. Let's see. Let me remember the setup for this. Sorry, move on to the next question, and I'll think about the setup for this dad joke while we're talking about the next question.
All right, next question is from Muggany, which I know what he's going for, so I'm going to put on a voice. Here we go. Why are we still here? Just to suffer. Every night I can feel my leg and my arm, my fingers, my head, my shoulders, my knees, and even my toes. And I ask myself as I fall asleep, how your day? But your day cannot be how. It can only be is. So how is your day if your day is not how? Who are we to how our days instead of is? What do you think?
Are you done?
Nano machine, son.
The question is, so how is your day if your day is not how?
Is my day? Wow. So again, another inside reference that I am not inside of.
He's just asked this uncomfortable question every single cast.
That's fine. I mean, how is my day? My day has been fantastic. I spent it procrastinating from all of the things that I was supposed to be doing, and instead played Stardew Valley with my wife. How about that?
Great game. Great game.
Yeah, no, I have 4 different reviews I'm currently working on, and obviously still working on various stories, and no, decided instead to spend my day off growing cranberries and petting ducks and milking cows. So I consider that a day well spent.
Nice. Now we're going to move to other guy, who he has a question of asking, how does this make you feel? And provided an image. And Milk just posted it in the back. How does this picture make you feel?
Oh, that's rather awkward, isn't it?
It's a little uncomfortable.
So what if in my own personal headcanon there's a dude, he's an earth pony, and there's a dude standing behind him giving thumbs up that just happens coincidentally to have the exact same skin color as the earth pony. It's an earth pony now, I've decided, as the earth pony has fur. How about that? That's what we're going with.
Yes. Yes.
Put him back in. He's not done.
All right. Then we're going to move on to questions from Flam and Warfer. Flam, do you want to ask your questions?
No, I want to hear them come out of your mouth, Giggity.
Whoa. Whoa. I'm very interested. Let's talk after cast. All right. Let's up and coming writer, huh? Number 1. What do you feel has been the hardest thing about taking figurative pen to paper?
There's been a few things. The hardest thing. So, consistency is difficult for me. Sometimes I'm able to write a lot, and sometimes I'm not. Motivation is also difficult sometimes. Let's see. What else is difficult? Sometimes fight scenes. Fight scenes are incredibly difficult for me to write. The choreography, the positioning. I find myself writing out how ponies are fighting, and I'm thinking in my head, can they even move that way? Like, and then on top of that, like I get the scene scripted out, I get it written, and it's just dry and just boring as fuck. And I recently, actually within the last month, had one of my readers reach out to me and basically say, "Hey, I can do fight scenes. Like, do you need help with your fight scenes?" And I was like, "Oh, hell yes." His film fiction username is Mr. RTS, and as of the last few chapters, and I guess his name is Mr. RTS, so I assume that I'm getting the pronouns right, but I don't know for sure. So maybe I should just say they. They have been incredibly helpful in helping me kind of not necessarily re-choreograph my fight scenes, but certainly he's certainly helped me a lot with the descriptive prose. He started helping as of chapter 30. And I think it turned out really well. So,
go ahead, please. Sorry.
And let's see, the other hard thing. I talked about motivation. I talked about combat scenes are very difficult for me. I've noticed too that sometimes I'm not. The stuff that's going on in my head that like I understand is going on doesn't always make it to the page, and that can be really frustrating for me sometimes. Like how do I convey subtext in the way that I'm seeing it in my head, if that makes sense?
Right.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree with almost all of those, except with maybe the fight scenes. I've had extensive experience in those, so it's a lot less hard than it used to be, but I still feel that.
Well, it's always difficult to take something that you're not used to doing and like really tackle it. And you almost reach a point where, as a writer, you have to purposely go out of your way to write things that you're uncomfortable with, so that way you don't just fall into the same pitfalls and same easy ruts all the time. Like I feel like I'm terrible at writing horror, so now I try to write it all the time. I feel like writing silly one-shots, I can do that in my sleep. But when it comes to I'm trying to think, what can I not write? This turned into a humble brag. I'm sorry. This was not the intention. We're going to move on.
I will interject. As someone who has had martial training, the best thing that you can do to learn to write anything like hand-to-hand combat, fight scenes, whatever, is actually to watch like MMA fights, find highlights of them on YouTube, learn how these guys talk, what they talk about during their interviews. And if you want to go like full spaghetti Western kind of, ridiculousness, go watch really bad Kung Fu movies.
Oh, yeah.
And just like try to figure out what they're doing. Like say, oh, they're throwing a punch. Well, you don't want to describe, oh, they're moving their fist out and they're putting their foot out. No, you say, oh, they threw a punch and they, it looked to whoever as though it was very practiced.
Well, I would also say
I'm being super vague, but
No, I would honestly also say if you're going to write a fight scene, you should ask yourself, what are you trying to focus on more, the fight or the person in the fight?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
100% the pony. Everything I write, the emotion is more important than any of the physical things that are happening. So I always try and focus on the emotion that they're feeling, and I try not to have any sort of an action scene that does not have an intense emotional component to it. So I'm never going to have a fight that's just like the main character and a bunch of mooks. Like I'm never going to do that. It always has to be the main character and then some kind of emotional context. And if there are going to be mooks, I'm going to give it some broader emotional context.
Well, yeah. Then I would say actually go on YouTube and find any videos you can of a horse getting into any kind of a like defense. Because if you've ever seen them like defend themselves, they're aggressive. Like it looks more primal, more emotional than what you would think of when say a soldier or a martial artist fights. And that in and of itself, you imagine a horse coming up and trying to stomp something. That in itself is a very high emotion, kind of visual.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and just a little bit more background into me. My go-to research for all things horse is my wife, who has a lot of real life experience with real life horses. So,
I thought you were going to say my go-to horse background is for my wife, who is a horse herself.
Oh God, no. No. Yeah, she has a lot of horse experience, and so I'll ask her questions. One of the funniest things is she doesn't really read fan fiction at all. But anytime I have her come over and read something I've written, she always gets really annoyed whenever anybody uses the word fur to describe a horse's coat, because she says technically it's actually hair, not fur, and there's some sort of scientific definition that delineates between the two. And I try to explain to her, I was like, no, these aren't actual horses, these are magical cartoon ponies. And magical cartoon ponies have fur, even though horses might have hair. And for some reason, she doesn't like that answer.
I mean, it kind of goes
magic.
both ways.
I ain't gotta explain shit.
I mean, it goes both directions, right? Like you can definitely go the horse hair route, but at the same time, like let's be like very real for a second, where like at least the way that I write, a lot of the fur and a lot of the kind of body morphism of these characters, they're basically humans in horse body. And they have like the natural characteristics and movements of a horse, but we're writing them like people. So when you're talking about the fur or their coats or stuff like that, 9 times out of 10, unless they had like a Looney Tunes explosion and their fur is all charred or their hair is all charred, that's going to be way, like, in the background, minor detail compared to the expressions on their face, the way that their limbs are moving, or the way they just, like, hesitate in the air for a moment before they reach something or pull away. Like, all of those little actions are way more worth lingering on than, the mane or the fur. So I get where you're coming from, but, like, at the end of the day, at the same time, that's not like what's going to make your story go over the top.
Oh yeah, and honestly, there's a certain level of, I think, of suspension of disbelief when it comes to certain aspects of writing pony fan fiction. Like, I know that sometimes people like to make a big deal about certain details, like how does a pony turn a doorknob if they're not a unicorn, stuff like that. And my approach has always been to kind of hand wave those things to, like, it's not important to my story, so I'm not really going to worry about it. And it's just going to kind of happen. And it's a suspension of disbelief thing, because, like, you're asking your readers to not worry about it so much. Like, I just don't want to go into how it's possible that Pinkie Pie is picking up a mug of hot chocolate or whatever it is. Like, I don't want to really go into that too much.
They can open and grab stuff because underneath their hooves they got like starfish suckers.
Yeah, I've seen that picture, and I do not like that explanation. I'd rather just not think about it. I'd rather just set that aside. I want to write about ponies falling in love. I want to write about ponies fighting each other. I want to write about ponies yelling at each other and hugging each other. I want to write pony smooches. I literally could not give any fucks whatsoever about how a pony picks up something. It just doesn't even blip on my radar.
If all ponies are covered in hair, including their lip, does that mean mares have mustaches?
We have seen in the show that mustaches are the same kind of hair as manes, and the coat is something different. So I'm going to go with no.
Pardon me, I'm just writing down a story idea.
You better credit me, you son of a bitch.
I'm not going to credit you for shit because our ideas are not the same.
Shit.
All right, so. Oh man, now I'm really excited for this. Okay, number 2. What's your favorite character to write about so far?
I mean, do we mean original character or canon?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll talk canon first. That one's rough. I mean, we kind of covered it earlier when we talked about who Best Pony was. I've really enjoyed writing several different canon characters. I really enjoyed writing. I wrote one story about Sonata that I really liked, and because I kind of see her as a sponge, she absorbs whatever she's next to, and that's the way I interpreted her character from what little we see of her. And so she's evil because she's around evil, and when I removed her from that context, she became really interesting to write.
I'm now imagining Sonata wearing SpongeBob's outfit.
I really enjoyed. I wrote a piece about a month and a half back about Applejack and Apple Bloom that I really liked. Kind of about Applejack giving Apple Bloom advice on how to process grief, and so I got to really get into ask questions about how would Applejack process grief, because of all of the main 6, it seems to me like she is the one who would have the most experience in that. And I know that the show has been really hands off about what actually happened to her parents, but we know they're dead.
Yeah.
And so and we know that it happened at a relatively young age for her. So of all of the main characters, she is probably the most experienced at processing grief. And so I really enjoyed kind of channeling that and getting into that for Applejack.
They're not dead. They're astronauts. Lauren Faust said the shooting star was them.
As far as original characters, yes, of course, I enjoy writing Emberglow. I love getting into her head. She's the main character of Rekindled Embers. And I enjoy writing Lofty Tale. I've said this to a few different people, but he is the closest thing this story has to a self-insert. His story is not my story, but a lot of his attitudes are my attitudes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But as far as the characters in Rekindled Embers, the character that I enjoyed writing the absolute most is a side character named Bubblegum. And Bubblegum she has no filter and no concept of tact or propriety. And her mind is absolutely filthy. And the story is never written from her perspective, so all we ever get is other ponies reacting to Bubblegum. But like I said earlier, I have a backstory for all of these characters, and so writing Bubblegum is an absolute joy because she's kind of an asshole, and she's impulsive, and she has no filter, and she's just fun. So
I totally relate. Some of my I have a weird, crazy backstory for my OC character Lilar, but I always relish writing her, even if it's off the wall and ridiculous.
He named that horse after his vacuum cleaner.
I mean, ponies have more ridiculous names than that, so why not?
True. And number 3, what's the best advice you've been given so far for writing?
So the best advice I ever got came from one of my younger brothers, who told me, and this is probably a decade ago, he told me, if you want to be a great writer, you need to read, and you need to read outside of your genre. And at the time, My Little Pony wasn't even on my radar, and I was just writing fantasy. And he basically explained to me, if you want to be a good writer, you need to read something other than fantasy books. You need to read horror. You need to read nonfiction. You need to read mystery. You need to read all of these things. And
you need to read my memoirs.
Memoirs. Yeah, all of these things. And that's, if people ask for writing advice, that's what I always try to tell them. Read. Go out and read stuff. And don't just read just to read. You have to read like a writer. You have to be... So, I mean, yeah, sure, in middle school and high school, we all hated English class where we had to read something and then our teachers made us write essays and answer long questions about it, and made us actually think about the stuff we were reading. And we hate those books. Like, we read these books in high school that are supposed to be, you know, like the literary canon, the greats, and we learn to hate them because we're forced to read them. But that's how a writer needs to read things. We need to be analyzing everything. Why did the author write it this way? How does this make me feel? What did the author do that makes me feel that way? What techniques did he use? I mean, we need to be asking ourselves these questions constantly, and we need to be reading stuff from outside of our comfort zone. I've been reading a lot of nonfiction when I'm not reading horse words. I enjoy documentaries, and it's the same for movies. Like you do the same when you watch movies. How is this movie making me feel, and what is it that the director is doing specifically to make me feel that way? And when we learn to ask ourselves these questions, I think that we become better writers.
I couldn't agree more. Wow. I'm really loving this cast right now, guys. Like, oh my gosh, this is great. All right, number one. We're move to Alex _ now. Number one, what is the best thing to do when it snows?
I am an indoor person. So my answer to that question is, what is the best thing to do when it's not snowing? And that is stay inside and do fun things inside. so there we go.
Touche.
Not drive. That's the best thing to do when it snows, is not drive.
I like it. Number two, lemons.
Yeah. Like,
yes.
I really enjoy cooking with lemons.
Have you never just bitten into a lemon, like the Shelbyville lemon bite?
You know, no. Well, okay, yes, of course I have, but not consistently.
All right. Then the next question, are you any good at dancing? I think we touched on that gently before.
Yep, definitely no. Hard no.
All right, and then next we have, what is the worst thing you've ever had in your mouth?
The worst thing. Well, this is gosh, I can't think. I don't like swallowing pills. So if I have to take medication, it's always kind of a little bit of a trial for me. And maybe this doesn't count, but I had one of those moments where I was taking an allergy pill and it kind of went sideways in my throat, and I choked a little bit, and I had to drink some water to flush it down for the rest of the way. But it, because it had lodged there and scratched up my throat, it felt like I still had it there for like several hours after. Ooh. So I don't know if that counts, but for like 6 hours after that moment, I had the sensation of something being caught in my throat, like right around the Adam's apple, but I couldn't do anything about it, and it wasn't there anymore. So it was like this phantom itch inside of my neck. That was deeply frustrating. So I don't know if that counts for the answer, but there we go.
No, I think that's totally fair. And then the last question that we've got is, do you have luscious lips?
I don't know. Ask my wife. I
We'll
do
have her
not.
next week.
I do not consider myself to be an attractive human being.
That is totally fair.
So
I would say that would be the same of most people.
I do not know what my wife sees in me. I got lucky. I got incredibly lucky.
Nice. Well, my friend, we are out of questions now. So I guess the last thing is, if someone catches this later on, and all of a sudden you are now the 5th most followed person on FimFiction, right behind some beautiful devil named Flutter Priest, who's number 4. Which, wow, I couldn't even say that with a straight face. Not you being followed me, but let's say they see this and like, man, I really wish I was able to ask Apple a question back in the day. How can they get in touch with you to ask you questions? Do you accept PMs? Do you have a Twitter? How can people reach you?
So I don't have a huge online presence. I'm pretty technologically inept, but I'm on Discord. I take PMs on FimFiction, and I'm 100% happy to take questions if somebody wants to get a hold of me and send me a PM. I assume that I'll be around for a while because I'm thoroughly enjoying my experience writing for the fandom, and I hope that it continues for a while. But yeah, I'm on Discord. You can find me in different Discords. My PM box is open. So if you had a question and it didn't get covered here, feel free to ask me. I don't know if I have an incredible sense of humor necessarily. So like some of the funnier questions, I'm just like, I sense that you want me to answer in a funny way, but I don't know if I'm smart enough to actually do that or clever enough. So if you're looking for a funny answer, I don't know if you'll be satisfied with how I answer. That being said, I'll do my best.
We got the cream of the Applezombi today.
and as per the earlier question about dad jokes, that came from Emotion Nexus. So unfortunately, Emotion, you may have already heard this one, but it is my favorite because it's one that my dad told me. So my favorite dad joke, here goes. What do you call, or sorry, how do you catch a unique bird?
Oh gosh, you call it?
Unique up on it. How do you catch a tame bird?
Tomato.
Tame way, unique up on it.
Get out.
So
I hate you. I love it.
So that's my very favorite dad joke because that's one that my dad always used to tell, and so there's like that nostalgia element, and then the reason that question got asked is because I've developed a little bit of a reputation on some of the Discord servers that I'm a part of for telling the absolute worst dad jokes I can track down, and I don't know, I get a ton of joy out of that, and I don't know if I could explain why, but I love terrible puns, terrible dad jokes. I just eat them up. They're so much fun.
I also love terrible puns. You are in good company, my friend.
Awesome.
I am my dad's terrible pun.
All right. Well, without further ado, that's everything we've got for tonight. Apple, we can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy writing schedule and reviewing schedule to answer our terrible questions.
I had a tremendous amount of fun. This has been absolutely lovely. And I was thrilled and honored to be asked.
Well, it's an honor to have you. Next week, for those who are tuning in on the Mike Snipe Discord, we're either doing game night or we are doing Shitface Shitfix to read some bad fan fiction. Be sure to tune in. We're going to have a lot of fun. Thank you for listening to this edition of the podcast. Nobody donated bits this week. Big sad face, but that's fine. Everyone's going through tough times right now. Save your cash. Your podcasters for this evening have been Enigmatic Kotaku.
Dogecoin!
Oh my gosh. Flammenwerfer.
Yes.
Milk. Full Rav.
The only coins I have are quarters.
Our amazing guest, Applezombi.
Am I supposed to say something clever here? Is that how this works?
And my name's Flutter Priest. That was wonderful. That was really smart, Applezombi. All right.
Thank you. I'm proud of that one.
See you all next week. Bye-bye.